Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Saturday college football, basketball, baseball roundtable. It's also live from the Kentucky Derby. We've got our correspondent, one of the world's most interesting men, along with Franz Beard. Frank Duffy is up in Louisville. We'll be joined by him in a moment. He has been hitting it hard, as evidenced by the litany of pictures and videos that we've seen. They are having anything but a bad time. They're having a great time up there. So be getting his report. Butch Thompson was going to try to be on with us this morning. We've rescheduled that to Wednesday. They are in the midst of a 3-game series hosting number 1 LSU. So Butch Thompson will be on, and all the Blue Monster questions can be asked on Wednesday. Okay. Kevin Scarbinsky, longtime Birmingham News, now the Birmingham lead writer, and recently inducted into the Basketball Writers Hall of Fame at the Final Four in Houston last month. He'll join us, as will Buddy Martin, GatorBaitMedia.com, in the second hour. Lots to talk about. We're here 25 shows a month, 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, live, 8 to 10 a.m. Central. You can hear us on the www.sidelines.live and all over the place. Stitcher, Spotify, Android. Sync us up on Google Smart TV. Some people do it. It's kind of scary. It's fun. We also are on LinkedIn, Instagram, but you can watch us live, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. It's all there. Let me get some things out here real quick. And talking with Rusty Howard and Greg Smith, the sales manager team over at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. You know, they had the tornado hit Wynne March 31st, and I was over there this week. And, man, they have made a ton of progress. And thank you to everybody who has supported the people in Wynne. They've got coming up here now, they're going to be bringing in the inventory. So here's something to keep in mind. They're getting more Toyotas. They're not going to miss a deal at Red River Ford Toyota. They are selling a lot of Toyotas, a lot of Fords now. They will work with you. You don't like to use the term deal over and over, but they're not going to miss out on an opportunity to sell. Frank and I both know that in selling, you ask and you ask and you ask, but you got to have a great product, and they've got that. Red River Ford Toyota.com. They deliver anywhere, 45 minutes from Memphis, but a click away from right where you are right now. Frank, you look like Pat Dye there, man. The LSU version of Pat Dye.
That's right.
The coat, the tie, Fred Gervin, male prostitute. Ma'am, you're spending the night with me. Fred Gervin, male. Man, hey, but I wear the hat, the shoes, the coat, and the glasses.
All that's missing is the Pat Dye front porch and that bottle of bourbon, Belly. But we got the bourbon here. I just don't have the Pat Dye porch. And by the way, you were talking about how you got to ask for it for the sale. You know what the difference between the fat kid at Fuddruckers eating the ice cream sundae and the skinny kid in the booth next to him eating the free cookie that came with the kids' meal? Fat kid asked. No. Got to ask, man. You got to ask for the clothes.
That's right. That is right. And that's the thing about it. The Kentucky Derby, man. I've got a lot of people I know that are up there, including you, and it's just a big event. Dave Thompson was on with us yesterday talking about it is the whole week it's a buildup. You got up there, what, Tuesday or Wednesday?
We rolled in on Wednesday. So me and my boys, I've got 5 buddies with me. We got a box of 6 great guys from LSU fraternity brothers. So it's kind of weird. So this is my 15th to 16th Derby. But the first time that I've actually gotten a box from Churchill Downs myself. Normally we go through a ticket broker and some other buddies in Dallas. So we've got prime real estate that we got first right of refusal for going forward. And when I tell you, Rob, I've been at the Derby and Churchill Downs for the Oaks, Derbies, maybe 45, 50 days of my yesterday had to be on the Mount Rushmore of days. Not only was the weather incredible, the crowd was fantastic. The scenery, if you get what I'm talking about, was outstanding. That was off the charts. So, absolutely. And we had fun day gambling. You know, what's the old saying? Dear Lord, let me break even because I need the money. Well, we kind of broke even, We bet 10 races. It was like hand-to-hand combat. We got down, clawed our way back. It's just an outstanding time. If you've never gone to the Derby, guys out there, I know we got lots of listeners in Alabama, lots of listeners in Tennessee, Crimson Country, Auburn Country, Big Orange. Y'all have got to come to the Derby once in your life. And if you do come once, you'll come back.
Yeah. And you know what, when we were talking, we had the Greg Williams, 6-time national champion equestrian coach from Auburn on yesterday with Dave. And the two of them, that horse talk right there, yep. That's like getting Socrates and Plato together for a conversation over cocktails. You'll
love it, Rob. So I texted Dave from the bar at Jeff Ruby's, which is a great steak place. Now, hey, look, we're equal opportunity. We went to Jack Fry's the next night as well. I think that they're going to still have to hose off the upright piano from all the gimlets and the friggin' giblets and the friggin' bourbon that spilled on that damn thing. We were having a blast. But when we went to Ruby's on the first day, I texted Dave. I said, dude, are you coming in? I said, if you are, every drink that you have tonight, tomorrow, next day is on me. I said, you are the czar of Churchill Downs. I said, you must have tribute paid. Of course, if he would have gotten us into those swanky parties, me and my boys probably wouldn't have turned down that invitation. But I'm hoping that Dave comes next year. I knew he couldn't come this year, he told me. But if he comes next year, he and I need to do the radio show from Churchill Downs. That would absolutely be a freaking blast. I sent you the picture of Radio Row. There's absolutely no reason why, everybody else is set up with Dave's connections. Hey, we might not get a fancy table with the little skirt and the awning and all that sort of stuff, but I know Dave can squirrel his way somewhere to where we can actually broadcast for at least an hour. He's got that type of connections.
Yeah, we're doing that next year. That would be a fun thing to do.
Awesome.
Hit the bourbon trail up there. And
yes, sir.
I think the bourbon industry is over a $50 billion a year economic impact in the state of Kentucky.
It's crazy. More popular. I mean, it had a rebirth, a renaissance, if you will, about 10 to 15 years ago. Bourbon went back off the charts, and some of the single barrels, like me and my good buddy Chip Weimer, we were the first ones in on Wednesday night on our way back from Jeff Ruby's. We stopped at a really cool place, the Hotel Distill, and they had a cool bar in there. There had to be 150 bourbon selections, kind of like my buddy Dickie Brennan's bourbon house down in the French Quarter. But the bourbons were outstanding. They had just gotten a really good single barrel Angel's Envy that had come in. And, they do it right. You get the big giant cube. You get about 3 or 4 fingers of that friggin' that good Kentucky bourbon. Swill that around. It is fantastic here. And look, yesterday, Maker's Mark, Woodford Reserve, they have a high presence here. We had a couple of juleps, but yesterday was for the Lilies, for the running for the Phillies, and it's a great vodka drink. Of course, me and my Louisiana boys, we don't take just the regular octane. We had to go back to the bar and get the regular extra vodka floater on the top because you can't fly on one wing. And somehow we made it back to the house that we rented. I don't know how we all did it. What did they say back in World War II? When you'd fly and to drop those bombs, you're doing it for king and country, but on your way back, you're flying for yourself. I don't know how we all individually made it back here, but we did.
Well, you're walking around a lot up there. I guarantee it. You're getting a lot of foot traffic up there. But the whole atmosphere, 145,000 people today for the 149th showing of it. The betting on that, I bet you, is off the charts. And, speaking of that, that story with, Brad Bohannon was dismissed as Alabama's baseball coach. Yeah. And that is the strangest thing. I never really think about betting on college baseball. But the betting industry, Frank, you know a lot about it. It's highly regulated. And when they see something that doesn't look right or smell right, you're not going to get away with it.
Shame on Alabama. Shame. I know this goes out to a lot of Alabama. Shame on y'all. What are you doing over there? What kind of programs you're running? Hey, look, it's like my buddies. We all pooled our money yesterday. We kind of do a syndicate. Well, guess what? We play to win. I don't know what Alabama's doing in baseball. That's irreprehensible what they did. But look, the betting here, what's cool about it is, and I told my buddies, I said, the reason that you want to bet trifectas and superfectas, and even high five, which we had a bet on, I guess, about the second or third to last race, you want to take advantage of the pool. Look, a 4-to-1 horse here today at the Derby is going to pay the same damn pay that a 4-to-1 horse is going to pay at Delta Downs in Southwest Louisiana on a Tuesday. That's not why you're here gambling. You want to have the exotics because you're taking advantage of the pool bets. And look, most gamblers that come to the Derby on Thurby and Derby and Oaks are not what you call horse people. They don't bet a lot at the track. So you got a lot of money that's coming in because they like the name of the horse or the color of the horse's silks or the color of the saddle or whatever. So you get this big pool bet. So what you want to do is you want to play the supers and the tries because that's where the big money is. And so we wound up hitting a big super. I mean, we were down on fumes and about friggin' 4 or 5 races to go, hit a nice super, hit a try exacta, got us back in the game. We wound up, actually, I was fortunate. I picked Pretty Mischievous. That was my horse, 10-1.
Yeah.
In the Oaks. I told you that last week. And she came in for us, rode a great race. Tyler Gaffleone, outstanding young man, apprentice jockey from about 4 years ago. I told my buddy sitting around here at coffee yesterday, I said, this kid is going to eventually hit a major. In fact, I was just telling my buddy about an hour ago, the Oaks is considered like a golf major. Yeah. You win that one, you've made it. You've arrived, right? So Tyler got his major yesterday. So it's fun. It's exciting. It's exhilarating. Oaks or Derby, when they let them loose and you've got between 140,000 and I like that. My buddy showed me his other LSU hat. I'm actually going to change it. But you got 140,000 to upwards of 200,000 people. You can absolutely feel your heart beat out of your chest when those horses take off in those types of races. And when they come thundering around the first time, where we are, we're right down on the finish line. So we see them once and come around. And they get on that backstretch, and it's like a wave. It's like a wave in Waikiki. It just builds and builds and builds. And when they hit that stretch, dude, it is deafening. And the palpitation. And then, man, when they come in and your horse is on top, dude, it is one of the funnest experiences. And I got to experience it 4 years ago with my good buddy Tom Amos when Serengeti Empress won the Oaks at 13-1. So it's and again, but every day is different. What does my good buddy Billy Rose from Lake Chuck say? He's a financial advisor, been one with Morgan Stanley all his life. Hey, past performances are not indicative of future results. So
that's what it always says on
the. You got to get handicapping.
It always says that on the disclaimer. That's right.
Damn right.
But if you're buying a dog or a horse, you're damn sure going to look at the pedigree. And owners,
like Mortimer said, it's in the blood, Randolph. It's in the blood.
That's right. And the thing is that dogs can't read their pedigrees, but their owners can. And the same thing with the horses. All right, Frank, a lot of questions coming in here right now. Okay. Here's one from Jethro Toll in Schenectady, New York, is asking, who are you betting on, Frank? And who's your backup pick?
All right. So I love Angel of Empire. I've been talking up this horse Derby for 2 weeks. I said it last week. I haven't changed my mind. We were on the backstretch on Thursday morning, the Derby morning, day before yesterday. Yeah. Our buddy Tom Amos got us on the backstretch, and I got to watch him work out. He looked really good, but so did Forte, right? Forte, if he runs the race and is not impeded, is the best horse and should go win the race. But when you got 20 horses in a crowded field coming from that gate way in the back for the 1.25 miles, they have to come out onto the main track from the chute and reestablish. And look, Forte and Angel of Empire, I think, are in good positions, 14, 15 post positions, that if they come out they get clear. I think it's those two's race, but I like Angel of Empire being a little bit higher on the odds to come out in front.
What's the payoff?
Second horse.
Hey, what's the payoff if somebody puts $100 down on Angel of Empire? 3-1,
Well,
5-1.
In the morning line, it's 8-1. I haven't looked at the odds recently, but 8-1. So if you go, let's say 100 across the board, you're going to win 800 on the win, roughly about 350 to 400 on the place, and about 175 on the show. So on a $300 bet, you're up with you're going to bring back about 250, something along those lines.
So you'd spend 300 and get back only 250?
No. I was on the place and the show.
Yeah,
that's what 800 on your win. That's 8-1. You're only going to get back on $100 bet on the place and show. It's fractional. I mean, it's just not that much, because you got to remember he's going to be probably the second horse. The pool bet determines that. So, but you're looking at probably for the total win, 1,100, something along those lines.
Okay. I think I'm going to place a wager with you here after the show, of course. Hey, by
the way, when I put the wager in, unlike Alabama baseball, I'm intended on winning.
Yes, of course. Frank, look, we're going to do this. Mildred, my producer, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. Kevin Scarbinsky is going to be on with us in a minute, and I can already hear the people out there going, "Pow, pow, pow." What do you think?
That's my buddy's hat. I got to wear this baby in.
Oh, that is the Canadian Royal Mountie Tiger hat. Right back after this quick break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back here with Frank Duffy live for the Kentucky Derby in Louisville. I want to say again, Red River Ford Toyota. They had the tornado 5 weeks ago yesterday. Inventory is huge. They've got in a lot of Toyotas and new Ford cars, trucks, and SUVs. You need to check out that Toyota, the TSS 4x4 truck. It's got a safe in the console built into the truck with a combination. You can keep your weapons there, and keep valuables there. They'd have to really literally tear the car apart with welding equipment to get it out of there. But Red River Ford Toyota in Arkansas, RedRiverFordToyota.com. They deliver anywhere. Recently, Jacksonville, Tampa, Dallas, also Nashville, Knoxville, Dyersburg, Tennessee. They will go anywhere, and they will work with you harder than any dealership you've ever worked with. Red River Ford Toyota. They are great. And you need to come there and get you the purple and gold F-150.
There you go. Hey, look, I don't know if there's many purple Fords over in friggin' Arkansas. That's more of a crimson color. By the way, this is my buddy's pants that he's going to be wearing today with the purple and gold Argyle. Dude, you'll be able to spot us on NBC within 5 seconds of pulling up the feed. So anyway,
y'all are gonna have fun, Frank. I mean, you know what? You're there to have fun. You know, it seems like the Burgermeister is trying to run the United States now. No more fun of any kind. BS.
He ain't welcome in Kentucky. And I got to give props to our friends from Kentucky. You know, LSU, by the way, LSU and Kentucky were common opponents for a long time. You know, we played every year. So we've always played them, great in basketball, going back to the Joe B. Hall, Dale Browne years. So we have a good relationship with our Kentucky friends. And look, we've always got a symbiotic relationship. They make the bourbon, we drink it. So it's a good working relationship. But when we come up here, they're so kind, they're so gracious, they're so hospitable. But Rob, when I tell you, on Derby Day like today, when they come out for the post parade and they sing "My Old Kentucky Home," I don't care if you're an Auburn man, Alabama man, a Tennessee man, LSU man, it doesn't matter. Your hairs on your arms stand at attention when they play "My Old." We're all Kentuckians when that song. And by the woke idiots tried to get rid of that song 3 years ago. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Screw! My! You know what they could do? They need to put their lips over their heads and swallow.
Hey, that would take too much work. Then work.
That would take brain power too. I'm going to tell you something. This show is about three things. What are they? History, traditions, and heroes. We don't back down. We will never be woke. We will never be PC. We will always ardently defend the First Amendment, which is the right of free speech and assembly. Those are one of the four. Norman Rockwell's four great paintings. One of them, the right of free speech. Now you can say something, and it may not make any sense, but you have the right to say it. Absolutely. And that's what we're going to. But I'll tell you this much: we need free speech alive and well, and no man, no woman should live in fear that if they have an opinion outside the box, and they perhaps think Mr. Ed is going to win the race today at the Kentucky Derby, 1,000,000 to 1, they have the right to put a bet in. They could a write-in candidacy for Mr. Ed. Now they're idiots.
Right.
Okay, who's the long shot?
Phyllis from Mulga has that right to go bet on Mr. Ed if she would like.
Yeah, Paul, I want to ask Frank, is he gonna holler at the beginning of the show? Hey, Mildred wanted to know if you were going to holler if your horse wins.
Well, I can tell you, I won the Oaks yesterday, and my buddies, they almost had to put a dart in me. I was running around so much. Well, when you hit a 10 to 1 or a 15 to 1 and you picked it, dude, you got the right to crow.
Yeah.
You got the right to run up and down like you did something.
Yeah, well, you've done something. All right, give me your long shot to win. I mean, Jimmy Ott, ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge, told me, Rob, my pick is Angel of Empire. But give me your long shot.
Well, that's my horse. That's the one I gave you a couple minutes ago. But I will tell you, let me come over here to our fine galley area here. There's my buddy Chip. We're having a great time here at the house, getting ready to head on over. But I'm gonna give you a quick rundown of just a couple. If you want to play some long shots, I will tell you. 2 fills at 12 to 1 is not bad. And all right, another 12 to 1 horse, King's Barnes from Louisiana. I'm gonna put it in my exotics. He's gonna be on my 3rd and 4th line as well. But I'm gonna probably add, when I do my super today, we're gonna have all on the last line, because you never can tell who's gonna come in 4th, and really even this one, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. But you want to have that all in there in case you get lucky and that 50 to 1 or 60 to 1 or 71 comes in, because that's going to rule everybody out that didn't have that. And that's when you get those killer $100,000, $75,000, $125,000 super fast.
Well, I mean, the betting right now, the wind is, what are the lines like for people that are trying to get in there?
It wasn't bad yesterday. It really wasn't. When we got there on Thursday, the lines were real long on Thursday because they wasn't staffed well. I'll tell you. Yeah. And normally there's waiters running around with cocktails a lot on Friday and Saturday, and they were there yesterday. I mean, they took care of us yesterday. But Thursday was kind of hit and miss. And my good buddy Chip Weimer said, more than likely because of the fact that it's hard to find people to work right now. I mean, in any field. And so I'm sure Churchill Downs is no exception to that. But yesterday they were fully staffed. All the windows were open. I don't think I was ever more than 5 deep. It'll get more today because Derby is the big Mahas. It'll be a little bit tougher to get to the windows, but it shouldn't be prohibitive. They had all the windows working.
And it's amazing everywhere you go, the third world feeling that, where do people go? How do these people survive? But the betting, you would think that they would staff those, to the max to get every dollar they can. Okay. Okay.
And now you got electronic kiosks that help.
Yes.
I like going to the personal window. I like the old school about it, but you better check your tickets because especially if they've got new ticket takers, you want to double check those tickets before you leave, boys and girls. But don't forget on Derby and Oaks Day, they keep a much wider distance between the races. Like, we'll get over there like at 11 o'clock, 11:30, like we did yesterday, probably around race 3, race 4. But they don't run the Oaks and the Derby until almost, 6:30, almost 6:45. And then there's even a couple races after that. We don't stay for that. That's, not as good a races. Yeah. That's the hardcores. And by the way, we got a great party right across the street that one of the trainers throws. Our good buddy Tom Amos and Lil Al Stahl, who we know from New Orleans, trainer. His dad ran fairgrounds for years and years, Big Al. So we know them. They had about 1,500 pounds of crawfish yesterday. Had a Louisiana band that came up from New Orleans. And I tell you, I got to hit a lob wedge from the front door to the house that they rented to have this party. Went into the night. So, look, it's just a fun time, start to finish. It is pageantry at its best. It's horse racing, it's gambling, it's bourbon, it's cigars, it's, bullshitting about your favorite team, and the gorgeous women just absolutely drop dead. Like my buddy Billy Rose told me yesterday, a funny story that one of the guys said, all the beautiful girls at one LSU game, he goes, I saw more beautiful women at one LSU game than I did in 4 years at the University of Oregon. And he said, the smoke jumpers have arrived. Well, there was a lot of smoke jumpers out.
Yeah. Well, we were listening on the way into Memphis yesterday. Audrey reminded me of this great CD called the Martini Bar CD. And when in Memphis, a man that lived down the street from us over at Tuckahoe and Cherry, Charlie Rich, the great singer, What Goes On Behind Closed Doors, The Silver Fox. And there's a great line in one of his songs. He goes, it makes me proud, makes me feel like a man. We need to get back to Friday night TV, the Dean Martin roast with Don Rickles, Foster Brooks, and all that kind of stuff, instead of all this soft snowflake crap that we got. And you just mentioned all the great vices, gambling, smoking, betting. I mean, keep going, Frank.
Hey, we call that the Louisiana superfecta. No, listen to me. Let me tell you. So right below us, these pretty nice young ladies, probably about our daughter's age, college age girls, were having a great time. They were enjoying themselves. Everybody was yucking it up, having a great time all the way during the day. They were so polite. They were so genuine. I'm sure their dad got them the box. They were having a fun time. And these three knuckleheads come down, these Metros that look like they were trying to be cowboys, but they look like like drugstore cowboys. Yeah. And they took more pictures of themselves and with the girls. And the girls were like looking like, what the hell's wrong with y'all? And so after these guys like sashayed off, I walked down there and I said, isn't this ridiculous? I said, what, I go, I apologize for those men because they were not. And she goes, you're exactly. She goes, we want masculine back. And she goes, your generation needs to teach that generation how to do it. I said, thank you. We've been trying to do that for a while. We're doing our dead level best, but they even noticed it, Rob. So what you're talking about, the young ladies are noticing it, and they want protection. They want to feel like they're with a man, right? And so it it was just a dichotomy of the two boxes, us up here, us old 60-year-olds having a great time. And, like you said, doing some harmless, manly vices.
Yeah.
But, it's just, I don't know. I don't know, but you're right, buddy. We gotta bring back men. I don't know where they all gone, but we gotta bring them back.
Well, let me say this. You're shrinking. If you're great at something or you're a man, toxic masculine, what is this crap? You know what? You're shrinking to make other people around you feel less insecure is a disservice to everybody. You need to raise the bar. Look, that looks like a guy that would love a Dean Martin roast.
Ready to roll, man.
Huggy bear.
Huggy bear.
I love it. Look, here's the bottom line. You need to listen to those songs. Dean Martin, Charlie Rich, listen to some real music and some real songs instead of all this it's not even music. The country music of today. Frank, who was it that wrote the song Murder on Music Row in Nashville? How country music was killed for the most part. One thing you can't do is you cannot fake greatness. And that's a problem that we have with a lot of people. There are a lot of people out there that just bottom line, they're just afraid to be themselves. Hey, man, I think it's great what's going on up at the Kentucky Derby. This is fantastic. People going up there and having a good time. And, keep doing it. I mean, I think this is fantastic. Getting together with all your friends up there. It's the Kentucky Derby. It's a great time, and 145,000 people are up there having fun. And you know what? It's going to get more fun as the day goes on. So we're going to bring in Frank. Will be back here with us in just a moment. Buddy, we lost Frank. Frank was hugging Huggy Bear, one of his LSU, but they're all dressed in purple and gold. He'll be back with us momentarily, but they are all the great vices. He said there were smoking, drinking, gambling. I mean, it reminded me of a Dean Martin roast. Where's Foster Brooks and Don Rickles?
Well, they know how to do that out there. That's for sure. They're experts in that. They're 5 stars, all those guys out there in Louisiana. So
look who's on here with you, Frank.
Hey, buddy. Good seeing you, brother.
Hey, Frank.
Hey, listen. I got to do breaking news. The favorite for the Kentucky Derby, we just come over the wire here in Louisville.
I know.
The favorite Forte just scratched.
I know he was going to do it. I knew he was going to do it. He's the one horse that he was trained here in Ocala stud. And my friend told me last night he had a misstep on Friday.
Oh,
and there's
no.
a good possibility he's not going to be able to run.
Wow.
So that screws me up totally. I got to go back to the board and find another horse. That was my horse. So, yeah.
Angel of Empire, buddy. Angel of Empire. Go with him. Hey, boys, I got to run. We're getting ready to get in the Uber to head on over. Love y'all. What a fun time. Have a happy Derby day. Grab a couple mint juleps. Enjoy yourselves.
Hey, well, Frank, we're going to, but let me tell you, Buddy's got a question for you.
Oh, what's that? Okay.
What's my question?
Oh, I thought he was. I was just going to say, but Frank, if you can jump back on during the remaining 90 minutes of the show, Kevin Scarbinsky is going to be on with us in a minute. We'd love to get some live reports. And I sent a friend of mine who's at the Derby your number. So if you get a call from her, I'll tell you who it is. I said, you've got to meet. There's 6 of y'all dressed in purple and gold.
That's right. Well, I don't know about the others, but I know 2 of us are. And you won't be able to miss us in our purple and our LSU hats. And you're certainly not going to miss my buddy Billy in them pants. So, yeah, no. we're right down near the finish line, 3 rows up in one of the boxes. And it's going to be a wonderful day, brother.
I'm coming back as Frank Duffy one day, so don't worry.
Buddy, come on, man. Hey, listen, I'm going to get down to Ocala, and we need to go look at some horses. I'm going to get my buddy Scott Willis, my horse partner. Yeah, we need to come buy some talent on the hoof down there, buddy.
Yeah, Ocala Stud, of course, is the people that trained all these guys. They trained Forte, and my good friends for many years, late Joe Farrell and the whole O'Farrell family out there. They're the best.
It's got to be heartbreaking to have a horse that's favored in the Derby.
It doesn't make it. That's horse racing. That's how it goes.
You're damn right on that, brother. And by the way, you know one other thing? I got to tell y'all, the thought hit me as these fillies were coming out for the Oaks yesterday and they were passing. It just struck me that my horse, my filly, me and my partner's filly next year has every chance. I'm not saying we're going to be in it, but because it's such a crapshoot, it's such a lottery ticket game, that my filly has every chance as these, because last year at this time, these fillies that were in the Oaks yesterday never ran a race because they start running normally later at 2-year-olds. So everybody's got a shot. Everyone that dropped a filly has a shot at the Oaks, but only about 15 of them, 20 of them are going to get in.
Frank, we got to take a break. Great stuff. Join back in anytime the rest of the show. I love these reports. I'm taking Angel of Empire. I'll text you right after the show.
Sounds good, brother. Y'all have fun. See you, buddy.
All right, thank you. We're going to take a quick Buddy Martin, I am reading over this column that you sent out this morning. Time is drawing near for the show and tell. Buddy, this is so refreshing. And you know what's funny? My parents are 88 and 94. They still get the commercial appeal. You know, we also have the Daily Memphian, but the commercial appeal, the newspaper. And I've been enjoying.
They still have one? I didn't know the commercial
they still have one. Yeah. And I was reading it. It's just, you know, and it's part of USA Today Network. But what's going on now is you are becoming our newspaper. You and the great sports writers. This is great stuff. Billy Napier is on the clock, and why not? You know, everything else is these days, including the NFL draft, baseball, and to a certain degree, even golf. And I mean, your information, what are the odds that I'm going to have somebody on this show, thank you, that knows, you know, the O'Farrell family there at the stud farm in Ocala. And thanks to you and Maury Gaston pointing out about the limestone in the soil. But I know Greg Williams, Auburn's 6-time national champion equestrian coach, was on with us yesterday, along with Dave Tompkins, former chief marketing officer of the Kentucky Derby, Churchill Downs. And, of course, they had the national championship the weekend of April 15th in Ocala. Auburn lost 11-8 to SMU. But those two, when I had Dave Tompkins and Greg Williams on yesterday, that was like, you know, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle getting together for cocktails on the beach to watch the sun go down. But to have you on with Frank, that was some amazing stuff about.
Now wait a minute. I'm getting mixed signals. I'm getting mixed signals here. Ben Troop on our Thursday show at the end of the night said, "I got to say this." What has been? Rob Browne told me to say this. Okay, he said. Buddy Martin is Socrates.
Yep.
He said, Franz, I'm Plato, I believe. Yeah. And Franz Beard is Aristotle.
Yeah, you're Socrates.
Yeah.
Franz is Plato, and Ben is Aristotle.
Okay, well, how come I get to be the old guy?
You're the wisest.
Okay.
You are I mean, because when you write, and I hope I got the order right, but that's the kind of, when you have a dialogue with what you and Frank were just talking about on the horses, that's amazing stuff. And it just makes me want so badly to have a newspaper to read in the morning. You just feel
we don't
like
have that. We don't have it.
I know. We got it electronically.
But you know, no, we really don't, because what's happened is there's not enough money and jobs to hold the really good people. Let me give you an example. As you know, I've been following horse racing a long time. I mean, I was in high school here. The first Florida horse won his first Derby on high school, Needles. It changed everything. Here's what I'm trying to say. Since that time, throughout mankind, There's always been somebody, a go-to person who knew the field, who knew where they were from, who knew the background of them. And in the local paper, always had somebody. For years, it was Carlos Medina. He's gone. On Monday, I went to find out who was in the race that had an Ocala connection, and I couldn't find anybody who knew. I mean, nobody. I called everybody I knew. And finally, I read a blurb in one of the local weeklies. Somebody had talked to the people about the O'Farrells. And then I contacted Augie Griner Jr., who is part of the O'Farrell family. And he filled me in on what was going on. But it took 3 days. So I called Carlos Medina, young man. I said, Carlos, boy, I miss you this week. I'm sorry you're gone. You did a great job here in local media. We don't really have any newspapers. And so I sure miss you. Then I called the Star Banner, where my grandfather and father all worked. I worked, and talked to the editor, a friend of mine, good man, Jim Ross. He said, buddy, I have 3 people. 3 for the whole paper. One's a photographer, me, and a sports guy. And he said, they have given me 3 or 4 other papers to oversee, including Gainesville, including whatever. So here's the guy, one guy. I've known Jim a long time. Good man. They've overwhelmed him with 10 times the work he should. And quite frankly, I don't know how else to say it. Pardon my French. They don't give a shit.
Yeah. I hate that, though. I mean, because where are you getting the information from nowadays? If it wasn't for the people that are putting out the great content like you do on Gator Bait, let's talk about your column.
Okay.
Let's go through that. That is great stuff. And you're right. The clock is ticking.
I talked about that all week on my show, and I've had variety, including Shane Matthews, include David Moulton, including very bright young woman down in Tampa she's on my show, 4-time Legacy Gator. Her name is Allie Peak Wilbur. Does a terrific podcast, by the way, on YouTube. And I've got her on every Wednesday night. She's sharp. She follows her really, really close. So we talk about the Gators and what's going on. She thinks maybe they're turning a corner a little bit in the recruiting department. But the thing is, I said to all of them, and including Ben and friends, is Billy on the clock? Now, what does that mean, on the clock? What does it mean to you?
It means that the pressure is mounting and people are wanting to win faster. And you talk about the slow cook. Nobody wants the, low and slow barbecue. They want the steak fry. And that just isn't really realistic.
Yeah. And I want to somebody wrote me last night saying, buddy, why are you so negative about this? Billy's not on the hot seat. I said, read the column. Nowhere did I say he was on the hot seat. I said he has got a reprieve from the hot seat right now. But accountability is a whole nother thing. And I know he's trying as hard as he can. He's got a lot of things to manage. The game has changed. Head coaches are being asked to do so much now. And I get all that. But I said, he has everything he's asked for, right? He needed a new facility, which had already started. Check. $115 million heaven term. That's pretty good. First class. He needed a support staff. Check. 100 support people. Okay. He's got more than Nick Saban. He needed an improved recruiting budget. Check. Done. They did a new NIL deal. 2 weeks ago, we had him on Thursday night. They started a new one called Florida Victorious. Check. All right. So now everything he's needed in terms of a toolbox he's been given. I'm not trying to unnecessarily criticize Billy Napier. I like Billy Napier. Yeah. I think he's a good coach. But this modern world today, you don't get 5 years anymore. Because you know why? There's teams like LSU doing it in 1. Yeah. Well, wait a minute. What's going on? Those guys, look at TCU. Well, how'd they do it? So now Billy, who's a slow cooker, has got to face up to the fast food people as well. And he's got a tough go. And the only thing I ask in the column, as I say, I just wish he was a little bit more forthcoming, because we don't know what's going on up there. The people who are supposed to know, like us, we don't know. He travels the state, speaks to the Gator clubs, as you should do, but you're not allowed to go in and quote anything he says in those meetings. He does meet with a few media before, but I'm not going to Fort Myers to see that,
Yeah.
and so consequently, it's more difficult to tell the stories about. And this is not just Florida. This is pretty much everywhere. I haven't heard a whole lot out of Hugh Freeze, and I'd like to know more, but I get it. They're busy with the portal. They're busy recruiting. They're busy raising money and all that stuff. And they do have to coach. So it's a tough go. I get it. I'm 100% for Billy, but he doesn't have 3 or 4 years. He's got to get it done. And the most important thing, he's got to show progress. Like, it's not going to be okay to win. If you saw what I sent you earlier today, the DraftKings graphic, which picked over under on wins, doesn't mean they're right. You got Florida at 5.5. 5.5. I don't ever remember such a low projection for the Florida Gators. In my lifetime, this was back in the 50s when they played 10 games. But anyway, the bottom line is that so there's a perception, and perception drives everything. I hate to always invoke the name of Steve Spurrier, but I've got a series coming up on Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. Well, I talked to them. How did they do it? What did they do? And Urban told me, quite frankly, look, I had to go out and reach out to everybody I could. I spoke to every fraternity and the sorority on campus, every one I got to. He had to turn this around because although Ron Zook's record looks a little better now than it did then, the perception was that Florida was sinking and he needed to do something. And he worked his butt off every night, got in the car, drove around fraternities, organizations, said, come be a Gator, support your team. Here's what we're about. Taught his players the words to the alma mater, made them sing it, made them learn about it. And that it was a lot of hard work. And he reached out to all these groups. Now, Spurrier was different. He didn't have to do that because he was such a star around here and he was one of the highest when he came in. But his enthusiasm and knowledge and stuff was so good and he was so hot in 1990 that he got on a roll. I think Billy's got to look at history and say, how can I duplicate some of this? This model is tough to follow. But this is University of Florida, and 6 wins ain't going to cut it.
Yeah. Well, just like the picture we saw of Utah, their team that played in the Rose Bowl last year. They're standing out there. Everybody takes that iconic photograph, the team photo, and there's more support personnel than there are players dressed out for the game. And I'm with you. I give you an example of what you just said. The coaches, you have no contact. We were in Auburn a week ago Tuesday. Billy Roberts and I went to the Marriott for the Auburn Ambush. Atlanta area Auburn club had a big deal with John Cohen, the athletic director, Hugh Freeze, Bruce Pearl, the golf coach, John Kleiner, equestrian coach, Greg Williams, Andy Burcham was there, Jason Campbell, lots of people were there. They're all up on the stage on this podium. They came in right before, so there was no interaction beforehand with the fans like the good old days. And then they did a round table, just, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 back. And Hugh Freeze made a reference up there. He held up his cell phone and said, this is what I got to do. I got him texting me right now while I'm up here. As soon as I leave here, I got to go do it. And there you go. As soon as the event was over, there was no going out in the crowd, getting to know the fans, shaking hands, taking pictures. They disappeared. And I think they had some sort of little media opportunity, beforehand or something. But all they do, and all they're doing is they're asking for money, give us money for NIL, and there's no interaction with the fans. And it's not a good combination. I just think that
it's the hand they're dealt. Thus,
I know exactly. It's not their fault.
And like I said, dude, that column I sent you, the SEC poker hand. Everybody's got one. What is it? And that's how I look at it when I look around the table and say, "What's Hugh Freeze got there? Is he drawing to an inside straight? Is he got two of a kind? Whatever. You start ranking them at the table, Kirby's holding the 4 of a kind, and Nick's got a full house, and probably also maybe LSU's got a full house. Maybe one's got a higher one, and Tennessee's not far behind. And this is 5-card draw. This is not Texas Hold'em. So there's no river. You got to draw a hand from your hand. So you're drawing to this. And so what they draw is going to be important. Now, what is this? And then if you look at that graphic I sent you, here's what it looks like. I'll hold it up and show it if I can.
Yeah, I see it.
With how DraftKings picked it, which I thought was interesting. This is what people say with their money. right now. Now, we all know it's way too early, but for those who can't see it, the DraftKings, this is the over-under they've made up right now if you want to gamble. And you go down the list and you say Georgia 11.5. Well, I ain't going to go over that, that's for sure. Then right behind him is Alabama 10.5. All right, I'd argue that. You get Tennessee now. That's the Tennessee, LSU, both 9.5. Who do you put at one over the other? And you say, what are they holding? Nick's got a full house. Tennessee may have probably only 2 pair, and I think maybe LSU might have 3 of a kind. And you go down the list here, and they got the whole bunch of people at 7.5. They got Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Florida, and Texas A&M. Those are all 7.5. If you had to take one of those 3, Rob, who would you take? I'd probably take A&M.
I'd take Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But you're right. Yeah.
So what do they got? They both all got 2 pair. I don't know. So you're going down. Then you go to South Carolina, Kentucky, and Missouri, and Mississippi State, and Auburn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams predicted at 6.5.
Yeah.
Which one of those teams would you take out of the bunch?
South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I wouldn't take Auburn.
And Auburn.
I'm
trying not to be biased.
No, but I mean, I'm just looking. I don't know. But that's why I say it's like a poker hand. You're at the table looking at the eyes of the guy. What's to tell? What's Hugh Freeze holding over there? I don't know. But it's like poker when you're playing a game. You have to kind of look for something. I can't go Kentucky. I don't think Stoops is going to do it again. I can't go. I think Shane's honeymoon might be a little over in South Carolina, although he's done a great job. I don't believe it. I got the team. I think if I got to make a pick right now, I'm going to take Auburn because I think Hugh Freeze is a terrific offensive coach. I don't yet know what his situation is at quarterback. Maybe you could tell me. And his defense. So out of that bunch, I would take Auburn with a close second, South Carolina. Then they give us Florida at 5.5. Florida, 5.5, followed by Vanderbilt, 3.5. Well, as we all know, Vanderbilt won't beat Florida last year. So that's pretty much the dregs. Florida at 5.5, that's about where they belong right now. And I'm not sure. I might go over. I'm not sure. They did get some good recruiting news, but it's all about 24. Their 2024 class is now 4th best in the country. But how about this year? What are they going to do this year? I have no idea. We don't know about the quarterback situation, except we know that Mertz is the guy and Miller's behind him. They got 2 good running backs. They picked up a couple of players. They picked up a player from Michigan, Moten, his daddy was a Gator, and he was a really good player, really good defensive player. And he had to give up credits to come here, lost credits at Michigan, which brings out one more thing, a topic for this show one night. It's not equal when it gets down to the portal because, let's be honest about it. Now, this is not an excuse, and I'm tired of Gator fans making excuses. But you know what? And Billy spoke on this kind of off the side. I wasn't there. But, you still got to get players in.
Yeah.
And they say, no, they can't. At University of Florida, they can't. They get a few in here and there and get tutors. But there are certain schools where you say, come on in, we got you covered here. And you know that. And you have to earn your grades at Florida. And as a result, they've lost some players in the portal. They couldn't get qualified. And Billy said, hey, we wasted time. We should have thought of that. We did all our due diligence. Then we get to the point where the guy can't get in.
Yeah.
So that's an issue to be dealt with. So there you go. There's a lot of things we're learning about this.
It is. And we're going to take a quick break. And I will say this about Hugh Freeze. They got Peyton Thorne committed yesterday, the Michigan State quarterback.
Yeah,
and if you look at his stats, Doug Dean did a great job of putting a lot of him. He's in the top 2 to top 5 for a single season and all time for Auburn. But he's coming from the Big Ten. That doesn't mean he can't play. It worked out for Joe Burrow. But we'll be right back. More Buddy Martin and Kevin Scarbinsky joining us at the top of the hour. Buddy Martin back with us, GatorbaitMedia.com. Check his show out. It's a great one. Monday through Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. Buddy Martin will have on a lot of great guests like Franz Beard and Ben Troop, who are on with us. And can't thank you enough, buddy, for what you do for our show, making it better, just having you on here and Franz and Ben. And I'll say this about the money that you mentioned in this column, the $115 million Hebner Center, an endless army of analysts and recruiters and all. I call it the Longhorn syndrome. Texas has a $41.27 billion endowment. A&M is over $18 billion system-wide. A lot of that is the oil rights. You know, the state of Texas, the legislature by law gives the University of Texas 2/3 and 1/3 goes to A&M. I guess the other schools get squeezed out. But you can have all the money in the world. But how do you explain Texas since 1970 with one national championship and the rest of that state with all that money and all that talent? None. And then the state of Florida, just since 1983, 5 for Miami, 3 for Florida State, and 3 for the Gators. And Florida State, Miami, and Florida have played for the national championship at least another 10 times in that time period when they didn't win it. I mean, it's and you know where it all starts? In the muck. I love
a lot of truth in that. And let me just say this: it's been a while though, because some of those the Gators and the Hurricanes have been down, as we know, really down. Yeah. And they got, looks like Seminoles have made some progress. There's some people who don't believe they're that good, including my partner Shane Matthews, who thinks they're not as good as people are calling them. I think Norvell's done a really good job. I like the hire. I think they did well last year with the quarterback situation. The young quarterback is really good. And FSU's on the mend. But let's be honest, there's no team in Florida right now that scares anybody. You know, and by the way, Gus Malzahn kind of likes his team, and they're in the Big 12 now. They're in the Big 12 now, not next year. They're playing the Big 12 schedule this year, and we don't know about South Florida, what's going to happen there. And then you go around the rest of the state. But no, the Florida schools once dominant are not and have not been, and a lot of players are being taken out of the state by a lot of other players, and so they're trying to reverse that trend. I hear good things, but, you know, look, recruiting's like, you know, it's like when you talk to a guy about who's catching fish. Some people are always catching fish, even when they're not catching fish. How you doing, man? Oh, we're catching like crazy. They're running out here and so on. Always catching fish. So recruiting, I don't know the real stories. It seems like Florida's made some progress, and look at the rankings. What else do we have but 0-3 and 247 and the Stars to rank them by? We can't see all these players. We don't know. But it does feel like, again, I'll quote Allie Pete Wilbur, who's really sharp and stays on top of this. She says they've got a record number of visits coming to Florida in June. Big month. I mean, in June for Florida, some of the top players in the country. Now, are we down to that, reporting on the progress of a team by their visits? I mean, really, I have to draw the line someplace. I'm not in charge of visits, okay? I know it's part of it, but it's getting so granular. There's so much to report. Let's get back to let's see them on the field and how they look on the hook. Yeah. And so, progress looks good, but it all is about the W's. And it doesn't look good when you see a DraftKings how they're betting and you see your team projected to win 5.5 games. That's not good.
Yeah. Well, buddy, one of the things that I noticed about in recruiting is most of these evaluations are coming from these camps and 7-on-7 camps and all. Yeah. First is, hey, I watched this kid play high school football in the playoffs against the best teams in the state, and he really stepped it up. Because if I'm a recruiting coordinator, I've got a sheet of paper, a notebook full of names. If the kid is playing Academy League football and he gets into the playoffs and he just is a non-factor, I fold the page, man. It's over because he's not going to compete. But I think what's going on at you look at Auburn is in the midst of the worst 3-year cycle in the modern era of football. And it's been 3 horrible years. You got, of the class of 21, February 21, which was really Gus, but it was Harson's technically first class. Of those 18 kids or 21 kids they signed or whatever, only 3 of them are still on the roster. So I think more difficult is trying to latch on to a team and say, I know the roster, Buddy Martin, left tackle, 6'3", 285, Ocala, Florida. Franz Beard, right tackle, 6'8", 320, Gainesville, Florida. Quarterback, Wayne Peace, 6'4", 225, Winter Park, Florida. You knew those guys. You identified with them. You went to battle with them every Saturday. Now, I tell you what's happening. You look at these kids, buddy, you know this because you are there. These guys that play at Florida, for example, even if they're not starters, they still can come back. If they lettered for 4 years, graduated, did things the right way, worked hard, they can come back and they're part of that Gator family.
Well, you hope so. You hope so. That's what they're trying to do now. They need to heal that up.
Okay. But the guys that are leaving you and just after 2 years, we're not teaching kids to compete anymore. I mean, I can remember every good teacher and coach I had.
They don't have to. They don't have to.
I know.
They don't have to. They're talents and they can say, come on and play for us. And, and they have their choices. They don't like it here, they go across the street. That's the hand we're dealt. That's the hand coaches got to play. Look, I mean, say what you want to about Deion Sanders. Yeah. And you can say 56 people have left that. 56. That's the whole roster. I mean, the old days. Yeah. And yet, you know what? He's probably doing it the right way because, to be honest with you, if you go back, and I've gone through some battles with coaches about this. Yeah. A lot of first-year coaches run players off. They do it all. They run them off. And I remember a classic case at Florida State when it happened, Larry Jones. And I was at the St. Pete Times, and we noticed there was a massive number of people leaving the program in the spring, and he would say, oh, it's because they were hurt or academics. Yeah. We sent a reporter up there to live for 2 weeks to talk to every player that was run off and got the real story as to what was going on. Now, look, we all know they do it, but Jones and we invited Jones to come sit down in St. Pete, which he did. Myself and the reporter, Fred Gerard, later to go to the Detroit Free Press, and said, all right, here they are. Read off every player. What happened? Oh, he was hurt. Oh, they're academics. Oh, this. And no, that's not true. He ran them off. And we had signed affidavits from the players on what happened. And so that was such a big issue that ultimately it cost Jones his job. They got put on probation, etc. But today it's all legal. You can do it. Just say, goodbye. You ain't going to play here. See you around. So that's how the game has changed. It's a business. Rob, if you got a company and you're making $100 million a year, instead of you're making $10,000 a year, you got to make changes. And you have to let people go and bring new people in. That's the ugly side of college football and the business that's become.
Yeah, and buddy, I think that the kids, by teaching them, what's happening is more and more kids are graduating in December, coming in January, and giving up the second semester of their senior year, which is really special. It was some of the best parties of my life. But we're not doing them a favor. I just think about guys that I've seen over the years that went to Auburn and played there. When they come back, you're part of a very special family. You've got guys now that are with your program, whether it's Florida or Memphis, Georgia, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Tennessee, it doesn't matter. They're there for 2 or 3 years, and then they just leave. And they all give the same farewell. I've been so blessed to be part of Gator Nation these last 3 years. I will always hold a special place. With that being said, I am leaving. And Kevin Scarbinsky's on here with us. I remember being down there at Auburn in April of 1981. I was probably the only kid who took spring break with his dad, went down there and watched spring practice. But back then you could walk out on the practice field, and I'm standing there next to Fob James and the governor of Alabama and people. And I saw Bud Casey grab George Peoples, running back out of Tampa, Florida, Catholic high school, I believe, by the face mask and headbutt him and said, "That's how we hit somebody in the SEC. That's how you're going to win football games." And blood went everywhere off Coach Casey's head. And I remember going out there to practice, and one time, 1987, you remember the big tight end we had, Kevin, that was about 6'7", out of Haleyville, Alabama. He had passed out in the heat, and they were wheeling him off into an ambulance. And some reporter said, "Coach, what do you do about the heat down here?" And it was August, and it was in the afternoon. It was about 170. Coach Dye looked at him and said, "Well, you don't like the heat, going up there to Syracuse or Michigan." He goes, "This is Alabama." He goes, "We just got to deal with it and take precautions," he said, "but it's just always hot down here." I think, I guess what's most frustrating to me is you got to teach kids how to compete, but you want them to be part of a family, buddy. The Gator family, the Auburn, Alabama. I know guys that were walk-ons that basically were just human blocking dummies that had 8 concussions at Alabama. Even though they weren't a starter, they ran out there on senior day, but they're part of something bigger than themselves. And that's really what, for most athletes, 99% of them are never going pro in anything except as an accountant, an engineer, or an attorney or something. Kevin, welcome. I hope you're feeling better. I have horrible allergies, and I've been taking something that actually works. and I can't say it on the air, but it actually, and I bought it at Walmart.
Jack Daniels.
Well, whatever your secret recipe is, Rob, text it to me.
Right now.
My allergies got the better of me so far today, but I'm fighting back. So good to see you guys this morning.
Hi, Kevin. How you doing, man?
I've been better, but sometimes you got to play hurt, Rob, just to go along with what you were just saying, right?
Yeah, we've had a wild one. Kevin, Buddy wrote, and it's just I love to read and how you can put all this into the words like you can, Buddy and Kevin. Great writers. You talk about a great steakhouse or a great bottle of bourbon. A great writer is the equivalent. And Buddy wrote a great column about what's going on at Florida, about Billy Napier being on the clock. And Buddy, you tell him, because this is way above my pay grade. I'm in the presence of y'all two, but I think it's an incredible story. And I've been reading it during the show because I just got it, but it's the truth.
Kevin knows this. He knows his way around these stories, and at some point in time, you ask for an evaluation on what's going on. And Billy Napier, and I'm a fan, by the way, both, and I like how he coaches, and I think he'll eventually produce results, but eventually it may not be soon enough because they want it now. That's how the fans are. But without getting too deep into it, my whole thing is when you evaluate, you have to say, is Billy Napier on the clock? And that means a lot of things. Doesn't mean he's on the hot seat. It's not the same thing. But he is expected to produce results. And he has everything he asked for on his wish list, from his facility to his budget to his coaches to what he's been given, everything that he's been asked for. Now, you can talk about Anthony Richardson and all the other things. Fact is, it's getting time. And I say on the clock, that means Gator fans need to see something. And so what's that going to be? Well, then I said this, and this is where I'll stop. It's like a poker game. And Rob and I were sitting here handicapping the league and what kind of hands they're holding. 5-card draw, by the way, not Texas Hold'em, because there's no river. And you got a hand to draw to. And as the metaphor goes on, as we look around, we know Nick Saban's got 4 of a kind. We know that, that Kirby Smart's got 4 of a kind. Nick's probably got a full house. Maybe the 3 of a kind down in Baton Rouge and on, going around the whole league, trying to evaluate because we don't really know what the cards look like. We're just kind of like you're at the poker table. You're trying to figure out, has this guy got this hand? And then I use the DraftKings list, which is interesting. Seems to be a lot of talk about gambling these days, especially in Tuscaloosa. But anyway, there's, trying to evaluate. What is this? DraftKings list shows Florida at 5.5. That's the lowest I can ever remember about a Florida team in preseason. So there's where we started. We talked about Napier, what he had to produce, what he had, what he's holding. and just looking at the whole league about who is, if you're evaluating right now, and you know the league a little bit, Kevin, what do you think Nick Saban's holding there?
Well, first of all, what you're describing is perfect in these situations, buddy. Nothing happens in a vacuum. You can do so many things right as a coach, but you're surrounded by sharks. And so you can do all you want, but if the other sharks or the other fish are bigger than you, at some point you either sink or swim. So, and I've gone too far with this nautical analogy.
Makes sense.
But Kirby Smart is at the height of his powers. Georgia is at the height of its powers. Nick Saban, while they may have slipped a millimeter relative to Kirby and Georgia, same thing for the last 15 years, height of Alabama's powers. That's the dilemma Florida is facing in a somewhat different way, the dilemma that Auburn faces.
Yeah.
Because Auburn's stuck in between that rock and that hard place, and they have to play those guys every year. Those are their chief rivals. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Georgia, huge rival for Florida. Now you got to deal with them. Now Tennessee is on the rise, it appears. South Carolina, Shane Beamer's doing good things, but Florida fans don't want to hear that. Just like Auburn fans don't want to hear that. They don't care what their thought process is. If they can do it, why can't we? Because we have done it. Florida has competed at the highest level. Florida's won national championships. Florida fans expect that. So, and you don't get time anymore. That's the problem, I think, that modern coaches face, and they get paid a lot of money to deal with those problems, is you have to produce quickly. So sometimes that leads you to make decisions that aren't best for the long-term health of your program. You go for the quick fix, and I'm not suggesting, and I'm certainly not as well schooled on what Billy's doing at Florida as you are. And I will say, if you know Billy, you like Billy. You want to see guys like Billy succeed because you think he's doing it the right way. You think he's got the right stuff about him. But again, these are shark-infested waters, and so I don't know. But Alabama is a fascinating case study because at some point, and I think we're seeing.
Kevin, hold those thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back. I want to continue with this. This is a great discussion with some smart people right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back with GatorBaitMedia.com. Buddy Martin and Kevin Scarbinsky, the Birmingham lead, and also CoachSafely.org. And Buddy, Kevin, you were rolling on about Alabama's situation before the break. Let's pick that back up.
Yeah, and I was saying, I see some parallels to the end of the Bear Bryant era to what is inevitably going to be the end of the Nick Saban era. And I wrote a column actually the other day. It's kind of gotten lost in the wash of the Alabama betting scandal, the latest scandal attaching to Alabama athletics. But Pat Dye was to Bear Bryant in some ways as Kirby Smart is to Nick Saban. It's the guy that they raised, the best maybe the best of the guys that they raised, certainly one of the best, and I don't think there's any question as far as Kirby and Nick are concerned. Bryant obviously raised a lot of quality coaches who became very, very good head coaches. Pat Dye was in that number. But Pat Dye became the man, at least in his state. Kirby's become the man nationally now.
Yeah.
But Nick Saban's not going away, but it's relative. Kirby has built some consistency that no one else in the Saban era really has been able to maintain. Now, can he keep it going for another 5 years, 5 years after that, et cetera? But it looks pretty strong right now. When you start surpassing Alabama over a 2-year period in draft picks, 25 Georgia draft picks the last 2 years, most in a 2-year period. And Alabama's not falling off. They had 10, the same as Georgia this year. They're still recruiting, right in the top 2 nationally, along with Georgia. But now you've got somebody that's looking you in the eye. And no one's done that in the Saban era, but for an occasion. LSU here and there, Auburn here and there, Florida obviously early, and then Nick surpassed Urban and put him to rest in that 2009 championship game. So Alabama's right there, but Alabama's not quite what it has been. And to me, one of the telltale signs, you look for that, right? We're talking about how do dynasties fall? When do they come down from the mountain? Alabama bringing in that Notre Dame quarterback was a sign.
Yeah.
You got 4 scholarship guys in that room, all of whom highly touted out of high school, but they felt the need to go get another one.
That's the tail in the poker hand right there. That's it.
Yes. Yep. That's a good way to put it, buddy. Yeah. Well, that tells you, despite what Nick Saban said at the draft, that they thought he would bring more competition to the room. They felt like they needed more competition in the room. What he really meant was, we're not sure we've got the guy in the room.
And a lot of Gator fans wish Billy Napier would do the same. Figured all that out, and he hasn't. He hasn't made a move in that direction. They do have Lagway for next year, but not this year. They've got to do something this year. Like I say, he's on the clock because there has to be some kind of progress. And like I said before, not to bag on these coaches, but they got to understand they have to give a progress report to the fan base. And I mentioned this to Rob earlier. Is that Napier has done everything just about right. I mean, he's. I think they like him as a person. They think he's a man of character. He does what he says he's going to do, or at least tries to. He does it the right way, etc. But ultimately, you got to produce results. So my question is, and this is the answer that every school is, that how did people turn their program around? How did Nick Saban do it at Alabama? How did Spurrier do it at South Carolina? So on and so forth. So I mentioned in my column this past week, not to promote it, but it's on Gator Debate if you want interested in knowing more about it, is that the bottom line is I asked Spurrier and Urban on a piece I'm writing, how did you do it when you got there? What's the methodology? How come you were able to turn it around? Now, best as I can determine, Spurrier did it because he was the man. He had the momentum, and he'd done it at Duke. Now, keep in mind, though, he didn't come from Michigan. He came from Duke, okay, to go at Florida. And people are criticizing Billy came from Louisiana. Well, Spurrier came from Duke. They were a Power 5, but just barely. And Urban came from Utah before Utah was a Power 5. So look, it has been done. But here's what Urban said, and I think he's right. He had to earn the respect and trust back from fans and get the home field advantage. And he says, you got to win over the student body. And his first 2 years, especially the first, every day he got in a car and they drove into a fraternity house or a sorority house or a group. And he talked to them about tradition. Urban built more tradition at Florida with his Gator walk and all the stuff he did than anybody, including Steve Spurrier, who was a Gator. And he really taught them, made his players learn the words. There's a novel idea to the alma mater, made them sing it. And he won the student body back. And as a result, you know how many home games he lost? The same number as Steve Spurrier, who played more. They only lost 6 times in the Swamp. And that's how you do it. Now, the question is, what's Hugh Freeze going to do? I'm sure he's got a plan. You just don't walk in the door and win the affection and trust of everybody. You got to earn it, either by doing it on the field or going out like Charlie Pell did the horrible first year at Florida where he 0-10-1, but he put it all on the line, and people believed in him. People writing big checks like Ben Hill Griffin especially believed in him, and Charlie built it from the ground up. Unfortunately, he had a couple of guys, and he's to blame for it, that cheated. 2 assistant coaches that did it and got him in a bunch of trouble, and that was tarnished forevermore. But I'm just saying, how are you going to do it? How are you going to turn it around at Auburn? What's Hugh Freeze going to do that coaches in the past at Hart couldn't do? How do you do it? And that therein lies the secret of what happens in these next few years to these programs as they get ready to go to 12-team playoffs. Because if you're any good, you'll be in the playoffs. I don't know, Kevin, what do you see ahead?
I think that puts more pressure on rebuilding, turning things around quickly, because now it's easier to be a playoff team, obviously with more slots, and then you have this. It's a fascinating phenomenon. I've written about it before. How many of these coaches who truly do become elite, and you just listed a number of them, by their second year, they're winning championships, conference championships, national championships. Urban did it. Saban's second year, they went undefeated. The first year, there are a lot of bumps in the road as they're changing a culture in some cases, and there are bumps in the road. Saban lost 5 games his first year. Go back, Pat Dye had a losing record his first year, but you knew they were different. They were competing. You knew, you could see signs, as you mentioned, buddy. What are those signs that things are getting better? And you saw them even despite a losing record. Same thing with Alabama under Saban in 07. And I will say this, Saban arrived with having to convince fewer people that he was the guy when he got to Tuscaloosa, because he'd already done it at LSU. He'd won a national championship. He was the white whale that they landed, that Malmore landed. And so everyone expected greatness. Now, I don't think they expected what we've seen. I don't think any of us expected them to do what and I don't think any of us expected that he'd still be there after 16 years when he first arrived. But you've got to have something early that says, hey, this guy's got it. And thinking of Billy and last year, the Utah game was so early. And I've told you, my older son Kaiser is a UF student. He talks about that being in the stadium that night and the feeling and how overwhelming it was. That was his first game as a student, so there was that added. He's part of something, as you mentioned, Rob. He's a Gator, and he's in the stadium, and they have this incredible victory. And Anthony Richardson makes these, highlight reel plays.
They're back, baby. They're back.
Yeah, exactly. Those words should never be spoken about any program. We remember the Texas quarterback saying that after beating Georgia in the Sugar Bowl a few years ago. He was obviously incorrect. So you can't say that until you win a championship, in my mind. You can't truly say we're back or they're back until you win a championship. And
people
it's hard to do.
Yeah. They're quick to jump. Texas does it every time they beat Oklahoma. They say we're back, they're back, and there's just such a desire to return to the greatest heights that you've ever. Because once you've been to the top, your fan base. I mean, look at Alabama fans. I mean, they won a championship every year. Auburn fans want to win. Georgia fans, LSU, Florida. It's never comfortable being 8-4. When you ask me, what do I think Auburn's going to do? 7-5, 8-4. I go 12-0 until we lose the first game. It never enters my mind losing. I've never got that. I'm like, my name is Rob. Great things are going to happen to me. Conceive it, believe it, achieve it. And that's just how I look at it. And when I hear fans saying we'll be happy going 7-5, 8-4, I'm not. But you're right though. As long as you see the progress and the fight in them. That old saying, if a dog will bite, he'll do it when he's a pup. If you've got a dog, a hunting dog, and you take him duck hunting and he doesn't pick up ducks, first off, who'd you buy the dog from? You need to go punch him in the mouth. Number 2, if you've been paying some trainer to train that dog, you're a damn fool. Number 3, dogs can't read their pedigrees, but owners can. You got to participate, and development of talent is critical. And that's the fans. I mean, Hugh Freeze bringing in Peyton Thorne from Michigan State. That's that's an ask, but he's showing to me and every Auburn fan I've talked to, he wants to win right now. And everybody looks at all the money that's being spent, like Buddy chronicled with Florida, at Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, you name it. Mississippi State 2 weeks ago received a $100 million gift from one of their alumni, who's from the petroleum engineering major. And
then let me remind folks one thing.
Yeah.
Okay, money don't buy championships.
Exactly,
right?
it doesn't.
I watched the Yankees last night against the Rays. Yankees should have this phenomenal payroll off the chart.
Yeah.
The Rays who got about 1/20th, about 25%, 30% of what they got.
Yes.
And the Rays beat them last night again. And I think, you know what? There's a testimony there. You cannot buy championships. There has to be something in the water. Has to be a coach who knows how to coach them. Has to be quality players. And sooner or later, I'm going to make this prediction.
Yeah.
This is going to matter again with teams. Teams are going to realize. We're going to realize. I watched Ted Lasso last night give his speech, by the way. That ultimately it's in here.
Yeah.
All the other stuff, that's fine. All the idea, whatever, but it's right to want to. It's about here. Now, yeah, you got to get the players, get them on the field, get them training, put them in position, and then they got to care a lot. It's hard to do today because of all the outside interferences, the money, et cetera. But if you do it the right way and you can survive 3 or 4 years before you win, then you got a chance. And maybe a chance to win for a long. Listen, let me say, Alabama fans, you better kiss the ground where Nick Saban has walked. It ain't coming that way again, okay? Now, remember the night when Florida beat Oklahoma in for the championship again?
Oh, yeah.
We were in Miami, and Franz Beard and I and Tim Casey went out for breakfast at 2 a.m. And I said, you guys better enjoy this right now because it's not going to be here forever. And it was gone after that. So you better – I know Nick hadn't won it lately, but you better kiss the ground Nick Saban's walked on. Not going to last much longer. Then it'll be Hugh Freeze or whatever. But you got to learn to appreciate it when you have it. It's okay to be a little bit greedy, but don't be unreasonable.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting, speaking of unreasonable, which most fans are to some degree or another, Auburn fans are conditioned to believe you can turn it around quickly. You can go from worst to first, as Gus Malzahn did in 2013.
Right.
And they're one stop away from winning a national championship after being a laughing stock and not winning an SEC game the year before under Gene Chizik.
Yeah.
Look at what Chizik did. Second year, they get Cam Newton. He has an all-time great season. They win a national championship.
Yeah.
So Auburn fan Terry Bowden went undefeated his first season. There must be something in the water at Auburn. That
You got those one-hit wonders down in Auburn, I'm telling you.
Well, that's the thing, buddy, is those guys weren't able to sustain.
No.
They hit the highest heights, but they couldn't sustain it.
Mm-hmm.
And very few, if you really look at it, very few coaches, Spurrier, obviously, Saban, are in the SEC, where the competition is just so ridiculously hard, unlike anything elsewhere in college football, that it is harder to maintain it there. Coaches always say it's harder to stay there than to get there, and that's true, but it's even harder in the SEC. So, but that initial rush of success, Auburn has had an extraordinary run of turning things around quickly. Tuberville's second year, they get to the SEC championship game. They lost to Florida in 2000, but they got there. But it took him a while to get that undefeated season. But so I think that puts even more. I think all of this with now, as you said, you got the transfer portal, you got NIL, so you have means to rebuild and rework a roster quickly. Mm-hmm. And Deion Sanders is taking it to the extreme at Colorado.
56.
They want it. They want more. They want now. And they don't understand why you can't. Mm-hmm. They don't care that Georgia is again at the height of its powers, that Alabama's at the height of its powers, that everyone else, Ole Miss is better under Lane Kiffin than it was, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's why it's amazing. Texas A&M fans to me are fascinating because with everything they've thrown at Jimbo Fisher, the lack of return on investment in tangible ways, in victories, in championships, draft picks, it's astonishing how few, relatively speaking, draft picks they've had since he's been there.
Yeah.
Compared to the Alabamas and Georgias of the world.
Yeah. Money. Yeah, I totally agree. Money, having a lot of money is like being a wealthy family with 3 or 4 kids that are all, drug addicts because they've never worked. They're just coupon clippers and worthless ne'er-do-wells. That can happen. You can make it too nice and too comfortable. You've got to create an atmosphere of competition. You grow up in a big Catholic family with 4, 5, 6 kids, like a lot of my friends growing up, big Irish and Italian families. There wouldn't be a Memphis without them. And all those kids, and you had 3 boys in one room, 3 girls in the other. They all, and I know them, they've all turned out so well. I mean, you're like, how did you do it? It's that you learned to get up early if you wanted to eat. You started your day already competing. And I think, Kevin, you grew up in that. You were so damn lucky to have grown up in a big Catholic family up in Pennsylvania like you did. I mean, you got to learn to compete. And I think that what we're associating with, and Buddy, you brilliantly laid it out in your column, money alone and facilities alone don't do it. You can't care more than the players themselves care. That's just a fact.
I talked to the new CEO of the NIL group they put together. The Florida Data Collective went away.
Buddy, hold that thought. I didn't mean to interrupt you. We're going to come back. I want to hear about this because NIL is just, I'm just so fond of it. I'm being sarcastic, but I want to hear this. We're going to take a quick break. Be right back. Buddy Martin, GatorbaitMedia.com, and Kevin Scarbinsky, the Birmingham lead, and CoachSafely.org right after this. All right, Buddy, let's pick back up on the Gator Collective NIL. I want to hear about this.
Well, it's boring for the most part because let's be honest, how many fans want to talk about fundraising? It's a necessary part of what they do, and money is always things that tends to muck up things for the most part. Unfortunately, I live my life about money, and that's why I'm a pauper now. But that's just the way I live. But the bottom line is that it is about money now today in college football, and you have to have. And you all know I don't want to bore you with details of the Jaden Rashada deal that Florida thought they had a quarterback and somebody promised them money they couldn't deliver and all that fiasco. So they had to scrap that. And Eddie Rojas is a friend of mine, sold the Gator Collective, and the group from Miami bought it. And the CEO is Nate Barbera, who I spent some time with at the recent Orange and Blue game and had him on the show. Ben and I did last Thursday. He had a terrific quote. And I said to him, how are you going to deal with this money thing that's distorting things in college sports? I mean, it's not just about money. And now it has become about money. And he said, money doesn't lead, money follows. I thought that was a brilliant statement. I hope that's the truth. Money cannot lead because it's not going to get you where you want to go. So anyway, just the whole NIL thing, everything's going to happen, but I think they're on the right track there. And that's another plus for Napier. He's got a solid group. They got a lot of money, and they're fundraising. But don't forget the little people, the ones supported you back in the day when they only had $5 a month, and that's all they could give. You got to include those people. Please, college football, don't run them over and throw them away on the trash bin. They are the backbone of every college program.
I agree. I mean, the fundraising, the amount of money that's being paid out there for NIL or whatever is insane. Kevin, want to switch gears, talk about Alabama's baseball program. Brad Bohannon, been there since June of 2017. He's out amid allegations of betting and all. can you name a similar story like this in college athletics in the modern era? I remember back in the early 80s, Boston College, point shaving, that was going on in 79, 80, but it's been a while. And what do you think is going to be the ultimate outcome here? How deep do you think the story goes?
It is an extraordinary story. It's unlike anything that I can recall dealing with, thinking about, writing about, and I'm working on a piece on it now. Mm-hmm. The problem is there's still so much we don't know, but what we think we know, that the head coach communicated a personnel decision to someone to allow that acquaintance to place a very large bet or two large bets to make a lot of money based on that decision it's just extraordinary that Brad Bohannon, if indeed that is the case, and obviously Alabama found evidence to support that allegation, otherwise they wouldn't have fired him so quickly with a week of this becoming public. The question you ask as a journalist is, what else is there? First, what exactly happened? Let's get the full story of what happened, and then what. So far, we believe that it is isolated to him. No players have been suspended. No players have been accused. No players allegedly are involved in this in terms of altering their performance. You talk about a massive scandal. If that ever turned out to be the case, that would take it to a whole nother level. But so far, it appears to be isolated to him, which is bad enough. Yeah. But again, this is part of a larger issue that athletics in general, particularly at the professional level, has embraced gaming, gambling, whatever you want to call it, as it's become legal in so many states. And yet there's a hypocrisy here. We see it in the NFL, the Lions suspending some players for varying levels of involvement with gaming. It's just there's an overall hypocrisy here. It's like this is a perfect example. I'm watching the Warriors and the Lakers the other night, and I don't even know what the service was, because this is an area in which I'm very unfamiliar because I don't partake in it. I'm not very schooled on it. There's an ad for some gaming service. Kevin Garnett, retired NBA star, is in the spot, and in very large letters across the bottom, it's like a warning label on cigarettes. Yeah. Gambling can be an addiction. If you have a problem, here's a number to call. And and my son pointed it out. He said, look how striking that is. That they're wanting you to gamble, but they're telling you that if you do gamble, it can lead to bad things. Yeah. And leagues used to draw a strong line in the sand, have erased the line and said, give us that. Give us all your money. Give us the gaming money. We'll let you, advertise on our broadcast. You could be sponsors. Vegas is the hottest city in the country for sports, with various teams, franchises moving there, events, heading there. So I don't know the answer to it, but this situation is extraordinary, and it comes after a long run of bad news coming out of the Alabama athletic department.
Kevin's kind of like one of those commercials for a drug they're putting out there, whatever we call it. It says, okay, well, try this drug. By the way, it causes blindness, deafness. It causes you heart attacks. It causes your skin to turn blotches. But check with your doctor. I'm thinking, why do I want to take this for? If this makes all this, so those disclaimers you got to be careful. Hey guys, can I get a real quick Kentucky?
Hey buddy, don't you love when they say, take this medicine if you're allergic to this medicine?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll probably kill you, but it doesn't make you feel. Exactly. Yeah, it'll probably kill you, but it'll make you feel better if you don't die. So there you go. Yeah. That's kind of what it is. Yeah. Hey, I want to get a real quick.
You'll look better in your casket.
Yeah. You guys, I have to get this in because my contract for being an Ocala guy. I have to mention the Kentucky Derby because it's something that I've been following a lot of years. The latest field, you guys got a horse. They scratched the horse I wanted, Forte. It's not Pat Forte, by the way. And so that was a horse that had training background here in Ocala at Ocala Stud. But I went through the list of the scratches in the updated field. So I'm going to give you a couple of horse names. Tappet Trice is 5-1. He's one of 3 horses that have a connection here. Todd Pletcher trains him. Another horse that's been mentioned is let me look at my list here. Was Angel of Empires, age 1. It's an Arkansas horse, by the way. Not Ras race in the Arkansas Derby. One of the favorites. 40 scratch. He was a 13. Then you got, this is the horse that my friend told me about. He's got deep connections to the horse racing industry, including the people at Ocala Stud Farm where they trained 40. Derma Sodagate, a Japanese horse who's the people say he really looks great. He's a 15 horse. I happen to be wearing 15, but it's from Tim Tebow. And then finally, one of the horses I got to mention, there was a late entry that my friend told me watch. He just after the scratches, Mandarin Hero is a name people don't know about much. He's 20-1 right now, and my friend who follows the horses closely and knows it says he might be a good long shot. So there's a couple of picks for you for the Derby. And by the way, 50th anniversary of Secretariat's Triple Crown. Blessed to be at all 3 races and covered them. One of my top 10 events of all time. Those 3 days, 73. What an amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an incredible memory that must be, buddy. I remember watching those, and one of maybe the most dominant athlete, if they are athletes, that we've ever seen.
Belmont.
What he did was it the Belmont, or he just kept pulling away. Poor
little Sham, little horse Sham just broke down. He gave everything he had, and Secretary blew him away. I remember the people at Belmont that day standing up to cheer the horse as he came down the home stretch, leading by 20-some lengths. And I've been to a lot of New York sporting events. I'm telling you, that was as loud a crowd as I ever heard.
Wow. That's what you've seen.
Yeah, and I'm looking here. Dave Tompkins, our friend who was on the show with us yesterday, former chief marketing officer at Churchill Downs, said 5 scratches has to be a record. I asked him just now. 3 was the previous, so 5 scratches. And I just told Dave, I'm letting him know, Buddy Martin, that is really cool. I mean, 70. I mean, I was a kid. You were, Kevin. We all were. I can remember that. I still have the glass. It's still in my parents' bar, 1973, like the 99th, 100th anniversary.
I have that. Yeah, I have that one. Yeah.
Buddy,
also have a winning ticket.
Cool.
Have a winning ticket on Secretariat and Gadge too. By the way, I have that. So
there you go.
Good call there, buddy.
Yeah, but it only paid like 30 cents. Or so.
Yeah.
But buddy, what was the one that's the 15-1 for people out there that are not that anyone who bets is ever superstitious, but what was that 15-1 and you're wearing the number 15?
Well,
obviously Tim Tebow. What was that horses? I'm going to write it
horses
down.
Actually, well, yeah, but unfortunately that was the number I hope my horse is going to have. But 15 now is Derma Sodagate, Sotogat, Japanese horse. He's 8-1. His number is 15. And that's what my friend who's in the business said. Watch that Japanese horse. He's really something special. So you don't want to bet the favorite, the Derby, because they usually don't win. And it's favorite scratch. So looking for a horse, Derma Sodagate is your horse to look at. And then the other one, the long shot to me, is Mandarin Hero, who's 20-1.
Got it.
He's also a Japanese horse, by the way.
And I think there's 20. There were 21 yesterday. Normally it's 20 horses. And guys, I mean, think of all of the great parables that football coaches and basketball coaches over the years have drawn from the Kentucky Derby. What was Coach Dye's, Kevin? Well, sooner or later, the race goes to the horse who thinks he can. That one that just got his blinders on. He ain't paying attention to all that other stuff. And that there is just something about horses. And guys, where I live up here in Memphis, Germantown, Collierville, DeSoto County, there are so many horses here. They have the Germantown Charity Horse Show, and there are so many great organizations where they use horses to help people, combat veterans especially, and people who've been through a lot of trauma in their lives. And Greg Williams said that they have a lot of combat veterans that have come back to school at Auburn that will just come out there and just volunteer to work around the horses. They have a calming effect on people, guys. And
Yeah,
this,
my granddaughter works with the
Right.
horse that same way. She's
Yeah.
11, and it's great therapy for her to take care of that horse. Yeah,
oh,
in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Kevin, real quick, and Buddy, I want you to do it too before we go. Tell people a couple of things, how they can subscribe to the Birmingham Lead, and also win the event for coachsafely.org, because that is, you got to go. We're going to get our group together and buy a table, but we will be there. But it is just absolutely a must-attend event if you love sports.
Well, thanks for that, Rob. Yeah, as far as the Birmingham Lead is concerned, it is instead of the kid driving down the street or riding down the street on his bicycle, throwing a newspaper on your lawn, this is a newspaper essentially thrown into your inbox every morning. It's called The Lead. It's based in Birmingham, and you can find it at birminghamlead.com. It's a subscription product. Some people push back on that because they're used to getting things for free in terms of journalism, newspapers, websites for newspapers. But you used to pay for the newspaper, right? And it's well worth it. I write twice a week, generally on Thursdays and Sundays. My piece was in yesterday. As I said, it was about Dye and Bryant and Smart and Saban and the parallels there. And that was in the Lead yesterday. So check that out, and go to birminghamlead.com. Check it out. And Lead is spelled L-E-D-E. It's a journalistic thing, the beginning of a story, essentially. So check that out. And then Coach Safely, that's near my heart, being a director of communications for that organ. Jack Crow, ball coach, started it. James Andrews is the medical director. It's all trained youth coaches to keep kids safe. We created a course. Our medical advisory board created a course that teaches them about how to deal with concussions, with sudden cardiac arrest, which is so much in the news this year. Those two subjects, Tua Tagovailoa, concussions, Damar Hamlin, sudden cardiac arrest. That happens to youth athletes as well, and it's volunteer coaches that are taking care of them. So we want to make sure they're as educated as possible. So you can go to coachsafely.org, find out more about that. We're rethinking some things, Rob, as far as that event. Well, one cool thing we're going to do moving forward, we're starting it in a week or so, our community huddles, we call them, in schools. We go to elementary and middle schools. We have a certified athletic director teach the course on site to make it easier not everybody has access to broadband. You can take the course online, but not everybody has that access. So excited about that. We're starting in Fultondale, Alabama, which is not too far from where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to do that all across the state of Alabama.
Yeah. Well, it's great. Real quick, Buddy, this is interesting. Doug Dean just sent this to us. The autopsy of Secretariat revealed a 22 size heart. Freak. Average of thoroughbreds is 9 to 10. Interesting.
Yeah, it is, and that says it all right there. Hey, let me just say this real fast before I'll forego my plugging of Gatorade to say I really appreciate Kevin's work, both in his writing and his work with the coaches. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Now I've asked last week. I don't think you were here. I'm doing a project about the great tandems of coaches in the SEC, because I'm working on one with Spurrier and with Urban. And they're talking about, there will be right at the top, but the best ones, of course, we know would be Bear and Nick, and then we have Vince Dooley and Kirby. And Kevin, I need your wisdom there and looking around other schools, and we'll talk about it next time. What other great duos would you put out there per school? And only one coach. You can't have Spurrier both in South Carolina and Florida. So what are the other great coaches and tandems would you pick? And Tennessee would be a tough one. You have to go back a few years. But anyway, think about it, Kevin. I want to have you on the show again soon and talk about that and feature some of your work, because I think you're excellent, and we need more of Kevin Scarbinsky's in this world.
Well,
absolutely.
I'm humbled.
100% agree.
And we'd love to have that conversation with you. Let's do it.
Yeah. Guys, we've run out of time. Check Buddy Martin, GatorBaitMedia.com, Monday through Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. It is a great show. You've got to tune in, and the Birmingham lead. Thank both of you and Frank Duffy on earlier for taking time out of your day to join us. We appreciate more than you know. We will support the causes you believe in because we believe in you. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Go out and give to give. Don't give to get. Don't ever forget that. Hey, have a great weekend, everybody. Again, thank you. We'll see you Monday.